Welcome to Nexus. I'm Wanda Allen Abraha, the Director of the Human Relations, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department. We are very excited to bring you today's program. The Human Relations, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department enforces and encourages fair treatment and equal rights for the citizens and residents of the City of Winston-Salem. The Human Relations, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department has 4 divisions of responsibility. They are investigating complaints for the enforcement of housing discrimination and landlord-tenant laws, providing diversity, equity, and inclusion support to city departments and city employees, enforcing and providing training based on the city's non-discrimination ordinances in the areas of public accommodations and employment, and providing language access to immigrant, refugee, and asylee populations. All Nexus programs feature our department's work out in the community. During this episode, we will be spending time to speak with and meet our newest department staff members. Those 2 members are Dr. Ronnie Christian and Robert Thompson. Now, let's join Adolfo Briceño from our staff as he interviews our very special guests.
Well, thank you, Wanda, for that introduction. And in this edition of Nexus TV, we have a very, very special guest. And by the way, my name is Adolfo Briceño. I am the host of Nexus. And in this day, we have a very special guest, Dr. Ronnie Christian. He's Assistant Director of the Human Relations Department, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department for the City of Winston-Salem. How are you doing, Dr. Christian?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you for being with us, Dr. Christian, today. Now, tell us a little bit about your new position, because I understand it's a new position, Dr. Christian.
Right. And so a little bit about the new position and a little bit about myself. Of course,
please do.
I'm a native of Winston-Salem, so this is home for me. Went to Parkland High School, one of the premier high schools in the city of Winston-Salem. We always produce great scholar athletes, right? So,
yes.
So Parkland High School, great school. From there, I went to Appalachian State University, where I played a little bit of basketball, majored in criminal justice there. Of course, after that, additional education. Went to North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, Aggie Pride, if you don't know anything about that, where I received my master's. And then, of course, went to Walden University to get the online experience to get my educational specialist degree, and then matriculated over to UNCG, where I received my doctorate in education. So after attending Appalachian State University, I began my career with the city of Winston-Salem. So I served in law enforcement for 5 years, left there and got into human relations, working under Wanda's great leadership for a few years, and then worked another 2 years in the city with the workforce development department. So worked in city government for 8 years, and then I kind of matriculated over into education and worked there the last 17 years. Spending my last 5 years, however, focusing in on diversity, equity, and inclusion issues within the school setting. So that's how I evolved, so to speak.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great to know. A great experience that you bring here to the city of Winston-Salem, Dr. Christian, and especially on this area of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
What is, for those who are unfamiliar with the term, how could we summarize the term for them and what it means for the city of Winston-Salem?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
So what we're actually looking at is ensuring that every department within our city is very diverse. Every department within our city, there is a great deal of equity and equitability, right? And then also that everyone within our city departments, there is a feeling and a belonging, a sense of belonging. So that's the inclusion piece. So we really want to focus on those as we continue to build our department.
Well, that is awesome. Now, what would be some of the highlights that you have that you can tell of the time that you have been here and the little time that you have been here
Sure.
in the city, Doctor, in these few months that you have been for the city?
Absolutely.
What have you seen? What is your perception
Right.
of where the city of Winston-Salem is in these three categories?
Right. So, of course, being new, or no, well, not so much new, but being back home, so
Right,
to speak.
yeah, let's say that.
For the last 3 months, 4 months. So we've been able to come into, I've been able to come into our department and really hit the ground running. So we are currently working with 5 different departments on the issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion within their departments. So we're also working on the citywide, I'm also working on the citywide diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. So what we're looking to do is mirror the two, right? So we're going to take the citywide plan, and that's something that we will all focus on, each and every department, and then based on their own work under their various departments, it will mirror and kind of correlate well with our citywide plan. So we've been working, myself and the team has been working diligently on making those two issues come together. We've also been very active in educating each and every employee within the city, right? So we have monthly what we call competency trainings, and those are really predicated on the 17 protected classes, right? Some of those are race, color, creed, familiar status, et cetera, et cetera. So we've really been focusing in on training, right? And so that is going very well for us. So those have been a few of the highlights for our department.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Christian. For those who are unaware of the 17 protected categories,
Correct.
the city of Winston-Salem in August of 2021, last year, passed a non-discrimination ordinance.
Absolutely.
Correct?
That is
the
correct.
department, the Human Relations, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department enforces in the city, and that's what Dr. Christian was referring to. There are 17 protected categories in that ordinance, correct?
17.
And those are the ones that you're trying to make trainings on employees based on that.
Those are the ones that we are training our employees on each and every month. So we hold a training on a protected class each month. And so that's been going well for us.
Fantastic. Well, if we talk about the challenges in this particular area, Doctor, what would they be?
Well,
What would you say?
Challenges are like growing each and every day. You know, we grow and we change each and every day. So challenges in this area is just making sure that we have individuals who are amenable to understanding what diversity, equity, and inclusion, what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like. Because a lot of it is predicated on one's perception and what one perceives versus what one reality is. Sometimes there isn't a one-to-one correlation there. So we want to ensure that the challenge of making those one and ones come together, that they are equal, so that everyone is operating on the same page. So the challenge is just understanding that, you know, change is inevitable, right? And in order to change and grow, we must change. And so when we grow and change, then we've got what we are looking for, which is full diversity, equity, and inclusion within our various departments.
That is fantastic, Doctor, and it's a very, very important step toward a progressive city, a city that treats its citizens with the dignity, in the respect and the equality that we all deserve. Now, looking into 2023, Doctor, what do you see, Dr. Christian? What is in store for this initiative for the department in 2023?
Well, again, you know, we are looking to grow and change, and so we're looking to reach out to more and more departments and get more and more department heads and their staff on board with our various initiatives in the areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, we have a great city manager and the senior staff who are very supportive in everything that we do, DEI, along with our mayor and the city council members. So we're just going to continue to work along that vein, to continue to build our process, our citywide equity plan. We're going to continue to build and work with different departments and make sure that they have a very vibrant and very all-inclusive equity plan for their various departments. Again, as I mentioned previously, we want that one-to-one correlation. So we're just going to continue to focus on those areas and ensure that not only internally our staff is amenable and working and productive and loving it, right, and feeling very included in everything that we do, but that also permeates out into our communities. And so that's where we're headed with our department.
Fantastic, Dr. Christian. And just to summarize, in case you probably got the gist of it, folks, the diversity, equity, and inclusion is more like internally facing, correct, for the city, right? But there will be positive and external consequences, right, for the public. And that was going to be one of my last questions. Is there a message to the citizens that are seeing this show that we didn't cover in the questions, Dr. Christian?
Well, definitely. At the end of the day, it's all about being able to ensure that everything that we do internally is going to permeate externally. And so that means that there will be other opportunities for citizens, such as small business owners, right, nonprofit organizations that are looking to do more and get more contracts within city government. So when we have our fully implemented citywide plan and our various departments have their individual plans, then of course not only will our internal staff members benefit, but also our community as a whole.
Correct. Thank you, Dr. Christian. Yes,
absolutely.
That's the idea, right? That this strengthening of internal strengthening will have positive impact in the community that we serve. Correct. That is what we do.
Absolutely. It's just like the foundation of building a home, right? So when you have your foundation of the home, that is really set up to ensure that everything that's on the inside has a strong foundation. But then when you look at it from the outside, you also reap the benefits from it, right? Because a strong foundation means that the exterior is also going to be strong, right?
Correct.
So it's one hand washes the other.
That's the idea. Well, thank you very much for your time, Dr. Christian, and thank you very much for being with us, folks. I have just been talking with Dr. Ronnie Christian, and he is the Assistant Director for the Human Relations, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Department here at the City of Winston-Salem. Thank you again for your time, Dr. Christian, and thank you guys for being with us. We're going to return with the second part. We have a second guest in the second part of Nexus. Stay with us, please.
The Fair Housing Act became law in 1968. Landlords may not discriminate on the basis of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, family status, or disability. If you think you've been discriminated against, call 311 and ask for the Human Relations Department. Fair housing, it's the law. A message from the Winston-Salem Human Relations Department.
En Winston-Salem no se le puede negar un lugar para vivir debido a su raza, color, origen nacional, estado familiar, sexo, religión o discapacidad. La vivienda justa es la ley.
Well, thank you for still being with us in this second portion of the Nexus TV. And in this second portion, we have a very special guest, Mr. Robert Thompson. He is the Language Access Coordinator for the international community of the City of Winston-Salem. Mr. Thompson, thank you. Thank you for being with us.
My delight to be here. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Now, tell us, for the public, Mr. Thompson, what do you do as a Language Access Coordinator? What is your position?
The Language Access Coordinator works to be able to provide access. That's where the access word comes in, being able to have connection with the city of Winston-Salem. When we talk about the language, we're talking about those who come from a different country where they were born, and their language they speak is not English. And to be able to have the opportunity to take advantage of the resources that the city has, they need to have privileges, resources that will help them be able to communicate. And that's one of the responsibilities of the Language Access Coordinator, to be able to open those doors for the international community to have access to the services of the city. But not only that, I think there's a second prong that we're working with, and that is to build a bridge with the international communities with various resources and stakeholders in the city who can provide things that are needed for living, and to be able to help them and to be able to make them feel comfortable in their new home here in the city of Winston-Salem.
Fantastic. So, so when we say international community, we mean all the others, correct? That
my colleague Javier works with the Hispanic community, and then I'm responsible to work with all the other language groups that we have here in the city. And it's interesting, most of us wouldn't even realize it, but in the school system we have over 85 different languages that are spoken.
It is impressive. It is impressive. Truly impressive. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Thompson. It is an effort that the city is making to try to serve these other populations that are here already in the city that do not speak neither English nor Spanish. Correct.
Correct.
That is the idea. Now, tell us a little bit of your background, Mr. Thompson.
When I looked at this position, I wondered if it was something I could really do. I wasn't sure where it might be. But then as I was interviewing and talking with the folks in the Human Relations and DEI department, I learned that my background is going to be very helpful. I was able to serve as a missionary in Brazil for 15 years, having gone there not knowing Portuguese, not really knowing the culture, and having to move into the country and learn the language, learn the culture, to be with the people. And so it gave me an opportunity to understand what the immigrants, the refugees, the asylees here in our area face as they come into the United States. But after those 15 years, I began to work with translation ministry. And I traveled to multiple countries and worked with 40 different language groups. And the opportunity to work with all those different language groups gave me an opportunity to understand how people have to face the things of life that come to them. And I understand better what they're facing as they come here to Winston-Salem and how we can better serve them. And I'm hoping that that background will open up doors to be able to build those bridges in a way that will make it a good situation for those who are coming to live here.
Right. So you have been in their position.
I have been in their position.
I see. Give us an example of what countries that you had to work to do these projects.
Having lived in Brazil, but then when I was doing the traveling, I was in India, Thailand, Myanmar, the Philippines, Papua New Guinea, over in the Far East, Southeast Asia area, several countries in Africa, Chad, Central African Republic, Mozambique, Kenya, Ghana, and then as well as countries in Europe, and then South America as well, in Peru, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador.
That's impressive, and it has to be challenging for someone who doesn't speak the language, right?
It is.
To try
it's
to
very difficult at times.
The population.
You
right?
walk in, and you think that you might know what's going on, and then all of a sudden, what's happening? I don't understand it. And it's an opportunity to learn and to see how people will step in and help you, because if it wasn't for the people stepping in to help, I would have been totally lost.
I understand. Fantastic. Now, how do you see this position making a difference in the city, Mr. Thompson?
The Language Access Coordinator, I believe, will open up for the international community doors that they may feel have been closed to them because they aren't able to speak the language. And we want to provide those interpretation services that will allow them to have access to the city services, as well as knowing what resources are available to help them. There are a number of organizations here in the city that are ready to help the international community. But until the international community is aware of them, they don't know to go and ask for that help, and they aren't aware where they would go to ask for that help. And the Language Access Coordinator, I believe, opens that door to be able to allow them to know where to go, who to talk with, and how to get the help that will make a difference for them.
Fantastic, fantastic. What are you foreseeing in the next 3 to 6 months in this position? I mean, we're let's say in 2023, right, which is about to start the new year.
One of the key elements that we're working on right now is to develop a community ambassador program. We are wanting to have a person that we can work with very closely who will be a liaison between the city and the international community, a particular language group, where they can go in, they speak the language, the people know them, they know the people, and they're able to present the information in a way that they understand, and it's coming from a trusted person that they can know that what I'm hearing is something that I can really accept and use. A lot of times when you go into a new situation, you aren't sure if it's really something that's going to help you or not, and you need to have that trust. And the community ambassador will be a trusted person who can open that door for them. And so we're working on developing that to train the ambassadors and then to allow them to start working with the international communities to be able to help them in that way. The other thing that is an ongoing project that we have had with the city for a number of years now is our pipeline sessions. Every quarter we have a pipeline session, which is an opportunity and during the morning hours to have people from the international community come, and we present to them, these are resources that are available to you. This is what people could do for you. And although the presentations are mainly in English, interpretation services are available, and it allows them to hear it in a language they understand and to be able to get information that is helpful to them. And along with that, we're also developing means by which the city and the city workers can better serve the citizens and be able to help them with their language needs when they have opportunities to meet each other.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, thank you. Mrs. Thompson, you have heard it, folks. So the Language Access Coordinator for the international community is this effort to be a bridge, to be a liaison in the city for these people, right, that already live in our city that speak in neither English nor Spanish, correct? And try to serve them.
Correct.
With the dignity and the respect that everybody deserves. Is there something we miss, Mr. Thompson, that you would like to add?
I just want to say that I look forward to being able to work with the international community and being a service to them so that we can make them feel at home. They've moved here to our area. Some have had to leave their countries under unfavorable circumstances, but we want to make them feel at home here in Winston-Salem and build those bridges that they need to have so that this will be home to them.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mr. Thompson. That's a great message. Truly, some people come here escaping God knows what horrendous situation they had in their home countries,
Yes.
right? War or famine or however it is. I mean, conflict in general, right?
Correct.
Whatever it is that they may have in there, and in the city, a progressive city that it is trying to, do the very best it can to serve these populations, right, with the service that we already offer, right? It's
Exactly.
nothing new that we're
The
going to offer to
services are
them.
here,
The
they
service-
just don't know they're here.
Right, correct. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time. This was Robert Thompson. He is the Language Access Coordinator for the international community for the City of Winston-Salem. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Thompson, and thank you guys for being with us. And now we're going to go with Jamie and the Nexus Challenge.
Thanks, Adolfo. I'm Jamie Cranfield, and this is the Nexus Challenge, where we test your knowledge about fair housing law. Here's our first question. You live in a rental apartment, and the landlord refuses to repair unsafe maintenance issues in a timely manner or not at all. What should you do? A, consult an attorney or the City of Winston-Salem Human Relations DEI Department while continuing to pay rent. B, withhold rent until the repairs are made. Or C, withhold rent until you move out. The answer is A. In the state of North Carolina, even if there are incomplete maintenance requests or discrimination issues, a resident cannot withhold rent, according to the North Carolina Landlord-Tenant Act. It is best to consult an attorney if there is an issue before withholding any rent monies. Here's our next question. A landlord can refuse housing to which of the following people? A lady with a mental illness, B, a Black male, C, Muslim family, or D, none of the above. The answer is D, none of the above. A landlord can be filed with fair housing discrimination by refusing housing to anyone based on disability, national origin, race, sex, religion, or family status. If someone believes he or she has been discriminated against, please contact the City of Winston-Salem Human Relations DEI Department. And here's our last question. Your community allows residents to reserve the common room for parties and other social activities. Which of the following can be banned in common areas within a housing facility? A, a Christmas party, B, Hanukkah celebration, C, pagan celebration to mark the winter solstice, or D, none of the above. The answer is D, none of the above. Fair housing law bars communities from treating people differently based on their religious beliefs or practices. The law clearly protects members of established religions, but fair housing experts believe it is broad enough to cover a wide variety of religious or spiritual beliefs. And that's this month's Nexus Challenge. I'm Jamie Cranfield. Now let's go back to Wanda.
Thank you, Jamie. Let's take a look at some upcoming events. Thank you for watching Nexus. I'm Wanda Allen Abraha. See you next time.